something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that?
Discussion this week with various members of different occupations around the state of Oregon and Chicago. For starters, I think I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves today, so we'll start down at the end here.
David, thanks for having me here. My name is Charlie Knox. I'm a combat vet and I'm a member of Occupy Cottage Grove.
My name is Michelle Dar and I'm with Occupy Salem, Oregon.
My name is Antonio from Occupy Portland.
My name is Jamie Kiefer from Occupy Newport.
My name is Karen and I'm actually visiting from Occupy Chicago.
All right. And I forgot to introduce myself. I'm David Sierra from Occupy Eugene. So we'll cover a bunch of different topics. For starters, I want to give everybody a chance, about 3 minutes apiece, to just introduce what's going on with your occupation, how did it start, and Charlie, let's start with you.
Yeah, at Cottage Grove started approximately October the 5th as a formal Facebook presentation. Prior to that, we had about, probably about a week or two of just talking to each other in Cottage Grove, amongst our various groups, associations, and came to the conclusion, man, let's do something about this. Let's get into the Occupy because this speaks to our values. And those key values for us were basically what the Constitution elementally states in its preamble. So that whole beginning of we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, delineates, I think, 5 basic points that tells us that, hey, this is what the founders figured out. It makes sense to us to this very day. And that, to me, is what got us all started in Cottage Grove. We had that basic goal in mind, to fulfill that more perfect union. And so we decided, okay, what kind of projects are we going to pick up on? Well, the first thing we decided to do was to support Occupy Eugene. We figured we'd learn stuff there, go up and be part of it, and pick up information, participate, and then bring that back to Cottage Grove and give ourselves at least a platform of learning to gain some traction. We also, in that same period of time, had 2 large meetings. There was over 30 people attended each time. And we determined at that point some basic direction beyond just the supporting of the Eugene occupation and others, that we would start some projects specific to Cottage Grove. We determined not to involve ourselves with an encampment. We figured that wouldn't go well in Cottage Grove, so we didn't want to do that. We do have a large homeless population in Cottage Grove. So we figured we might, bring them into the fold also in the process of being occupied at Cottage Grove. But we targeted primarily looking at our public sector, the school teachers, our public schools, the police, and the utilities, and to make sure, in the post office, to make sure that they don't get hacked to death on the chopping block during the cuts, during the so-called austerity program. And so one of the first occupies we did successfully was occupy the post office. Now our post office is not being targeted yet, and we trust it won't be, but there were 40 others in Oregon that were being targeted. So we stood in solidarity with saying, no, don't cut those. And don't cut the big terminals, which will slow the mail down by at least a day or 2. So we made that an Occupy project, did one day on the National Day of Occupy the Post Offices, had about 21 people show up, and a great response, because it was the 19th of December. And we had a great response from the public because there's lots of people going and getting their Christmas stuff into the to be mailed. And we handed out a sign-up sheet, basically not an initiative, but forgot what you call those, aren't they? Come on. We also hand out postcards. And so the postcards are addressed to Senator Wyden. And that was our first Occupy. We're now doing Occupy education. And that means going to our public schools and doing an informational picket by and large and introduce people to the issues as we see them to support our public schools and not have them cut.
All right. Well, thanks, Charlie. And Michelle from Salem, what you got for us?
Thank you. Well, at the end of September, we started a Facebook page, and this was after hearing about what was going on with Occupy Wall Street, and we saw the momentum coming across the country, and so started a Facebook page to kind of get a feel for how the community was feeling about having an occupation, and it was just wildly successful. We had our first meeting at the end of September, and we had over 100 people turn out for that, and ongoing support for the concept. So we kicked off our occupation on October 10th at Wilson Park, right there on the Capitol grounds.
I remember that.
Yeah. And we've done a lot in terms of occupying the legislature. We've been involved with that and involved with, forwarding some the goals that are really important to us, which are, ending corporate personhood and addressing foreclosures, and also, having a really strong presence there on the Capitol grounds allowed us, the opportunity to reach out to people who traditionally underserved, the homeless population, and people who didn't ordinarily get into that arena. So, getting that pulled together was really important to us. So we continue to move on. Move to Amanda's gotten really strong in our area, and we've been doing a lot. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Kind of the point group for Occupy the Legislature in
Yes,
Oregon too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. Antonio out of Portland.
Yeah, excuse me. Like I said, yeah, I'm from Portland. Used to be a street kid before any of this stuff I got interested in a long time ago, and I used to live in different places and, up and down the West Coast. And I think what got me interested in Occupy before it came about was just like, how could we get people to talk about the things we don't think could be helpful in the world, And when Occupy came around, which is on October 6th, I think around 11 o'clock in the morning in Portland, Oregon, there were like maybe 10,000 people showing up, and the interesting thing was that nobody knew that where this is going, and it's still a unique thing in that we don't know where it's going, and we still keep it together. So yeah, I was in the camp for about 34 days non-stop. I only had like a week off just helping out, and I was in the engineers department at the very last almost. The first thing I started doing was the safety committee, peacekeepers. After the engineers, I went from the medical and the info booth at the very end. And the last night of the Occupy Zone was my birthday. It was pretty cool.
Big party.
It was a huge party. I never seen anything like it. I won't forget it. But yeah, some people, some people around the state think that Occupy Portland is kind of militant, but we're just doing what we can in a big city. It's not too big of a city, but we do have a lot of police oppression. We pushing us back. I remember in Shemansky Park that we tried to reoccupy for a few days and just see how it goes, but the police pushed us out, and we decided to go on a march aimlessly throughout the city with the dance party in it. And then we ended up back in Szymanski Park for the whole night, and the cops gave up on us. They called it off. Mayor Adams said, "Hey, I'd rather have these people in a park than in the street, so just leave them alone." So, but yeah, even so, like, we don't have a camp like everyone else, but we pulled it together and decided to take an office space at the St. Francis of Assisi's. We have a pretty solid group. Just like Occupy Eugene is pretty solid, so people are coming together on those, tactical advancements, how to say, hey, maybe we need to take space indoors for a while to figure things out. So I think we're all learning management skills pretty well. And yeah, the interesting thing about Occupy, another thing, is that there's no leaders, so we'll be around for a long time. Yeah, so anyway, Yeah.
You said you don't have a camp. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you did have a camp.
We
It
don't
was-
have one anymore.
Yeah, it was one of the more
Yeah.
prominent national camps that you
Yeah,
had going.
it's probably the second best or something I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably about 800 people at one time sleeping there, and it got dwindled down to 500 people. But yeah, I lived in other cities, and I never lived in a better ghetto. It was the best ghetto ever.
All right.
It's a very liberating place. Yeah, the cops never showed up really in there.
Uh-huh.
That's what happens in ghettos. People, in this one, people actually cared about each other.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
thanks.
yeah.
And Jamie, coming from Newport.
Coming from Newport. Our occupation started shortly after the Wall Street occupation. A little different than the bigger cities because it is on the coast. And what they did was get together on Wednesdays and Saturdays to have a rally on the streets, the corner of Highway 101 and Highway 20, with their signs. And they found me in the beginning of October, and we started going to meetings. And I learned very quickly that the issues that are important to Newport, which was nice. I hadn't actually met these people in Newport until I started going to the meetings, are all the issues that fall under that umbrella of economic justice and social justice. So we've touched off with healthcare, single-payer healthcare. There's been a lot of work within the system, approaching City Hall to amend language, get rid of corporate personhood at a local level, at a county level, and then hopefully eventually at a state level. Homelessness has become a big issue. Of course, it's always been a big issue, but it's been one that was introduced early on, and though there was some resistance with dealing with it, initially the desire to be continual learners of the individuals that make up Occupy Newport overcame any hesitance there was to begin with. And so we have people actively working on building networks with other organizations who are addressing homelessness, revisiting city codes, revisiting county codes, trying to bring the different people that work on those issues together into one location, and rallying around issues. Rather than inviting people into Occupy, we've been inviting people to participate based on the issues that concern them, which have, at this point is basically corporate personhood and homelessness that have attracted the most people. We've never had an encampment yet. It's up in the air, it's possible. But most of it has been in solidarity with the movement as a whole. Not a lot of anonymity on the coast, so if you show up at the bank and protest, it's your neighbor, and the police are just going to come over and they're going to arrest you at your house. So, so we've had to take a different approach. We go to the Valley, we've been to Portland, we've been to Corvallis, we've been to Eugene, various different places to support the cause without getting ourselves in trouble.
And you've also traveled to a lot of the other occupations all over the state too. I guess both of
I
you.
have.
Yeah.
I think about 10 now, maybe.
About to.
Yeah, other conference.
Very good. All right. And our longest traveling occupier, Karen.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm from Occupy Chicago. Currently traveling right now, so I've been away for about a month. So I guess you could say I'm a little bit out of the loop. But Occupy Chicago started basically October 1st in response to Occupy Wall Street. I believe the original big call to Occupy Wall Street went out about September 25th. And we decided to follow in the footsteps. Chicago is it's a major business and financial hub for the entire nation. So we are facing a myriad of issues with corruption in government locally, and there's many things go on that extend to nationwide concern. I guess I would say we've been focusing on a lot of things. There was an issue where our mayor, Rahm Emanuel, submitted the 2012 Chicago budget, which came to a $636 million shortfall. So naturally, they had to make a lot of cuts to social programs. They closed 6 mental health clinics. They closed 3 public schools. They cut they cut a lot of libraries. Actually, I think they closed. I actually don't remember the numbers on that, but basically a lot of social programs. They also cut $190 million of the police budget and closed multiple stations and took away pensions. So
Did that get any kind of support from the police who are policing your Occupy?
it's hard to say. We actually had a lot of police who seemed to be on our side. They would bring us donuts and come say hi to us. But we also got immediately arrested when we tried to set up an encampment. We had about 300 arrests across 2 weeks. So Chicago never had an encampment. But at the same time, like with all the budget cuts to social programs, like there's legislature trying to be passed through where it was Sears and the Chicago Board of Trade were trying to get tax cuts to certain, I believe it was online trades. And a group of us went to the governor's office and just as concerned citizens and said, look, this is pointing to blatant corruption. You just said we had a $636 budget shortfall, and yet you want to divert taxpayer money to giving cuts to these big businesses when you're taking away our schools, our library, our jobs. And that's just blatant corruption. So we fight many issues like that. There's a big movement with homelessness. We started working with the Chicago Anti-Eviction Campaign, trying to support people who are in foreclosed homes. We've also been doing some work to kind of create some alternative infrastructure to some of the issues we've seen. Like we just recently started releasing the Occupied Chicago Tribune because we didn't really like how the media was portraying us. We have Fox News following us and putting out some interesting images that don't seem to speak for the movement as a whole. So working on things like that. And Chicago is also, we just got a indoor space to host our meetings and form some offices and things. So get kind of some people protection from the brutal Chicago winters while we do some planning and actions. And we're gearing up for April when we are going to try and host a camp. And we put out a call for 50,000 people from the other occupies to come help with that. And hopefully we'll be able to hold that gearing up for May when people internationally are going to be coming in to demonstrate and protest peacefully at the NATO and G8 summits that Chicago is hosting. So lots of that. And I guess locally, there's also been focused on a lot of labor issues. Like just recently, there was an occupation of a window factory in Chicago that one morning just decided that they were shutting down and told everyone, all their workers, that they were terminated that day. The workers stayed in the factory after close, and people from Occupy Chicago went to assist, and they got to renegotiate with the owners, and now they're allowed to keep their jobs for the next 90 days until they are able to find other work. So,
nice.
Yay.
I want to give you just a little bit more time with Chicago, if it's okay with everybody else. One of the things that we talk about on the West Coast when we're looking over at Chicago, we think Chicago has kind of a similar reputation to Oakland on the West Coast, being more abrasive and in the face of the cops. You don't see it that way?
We're definitely not at the level of Oakland.
Well, no, I don't mean that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know that we call it more abrasive. We've definitely, I guess, with demonstrations of not even being able to have an encampment because of the immediate arrest.
Maybe that's what gives the impression.
I mean, they're definitely less tolerant of us. Our mayor is also used to be a major player in the finance sector, so I think that makes us a little unpopular. But all things concerned, we have a really great team of police liaisons, and we've been trying to keep things as civil and orderly as possible with them. One I mean, I guess one issue in Chicago, they've made it, I believe, a class 4 felony to audio record a police officer, which is pretty serious. I don't think they have that in any other city or state. So with naturally people trying to document everything that's going on in order to keep things civil and keep unnecessary escalations down, that's kind of coming back as like a I don't know, political opposition. So we are facing issues like that. I'd say that everyone as a whole in Occupy Chicago has done a really great job at trying to keep things civil and keep our two groups, like keep Occupy and keep the police and our local government talking to each other and trying to work towards mutually beneficial solutions to our issues.
All right, okay. That could very well be just the impression that we get out here is also just the impression you get from the distance, what the mainstream media is giving us. So from here on out, I'd like to just open it up now to everybody to interact, wide open discussion. And the first thing I'd like to toss out to you guys is, how would you like to see your occupation serve your community and the larger community as a whole? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I would like to start. I think what we're doing right now in Cottage Grove is definitely centered on what we can do at our local neighborhood level. That's why we chose to pretty much center our activities around what we're doing already before the Occupy began. And we have a very robust, sustainable Cottage Grove group. And this is about 80 people that show up at least once a week, no, I'm sorry, once a month for a big potluck. I think twice a month, but it's a really good turnout. What we're doing is time sharing. So we are picking ourselves up by our own bootstraps, as they say, and looking at the whole question of self-sufficiency. That yes, we can do this. We can run our own food systems, and we are doing that. Now, it's not large and robust yet, but I think one of our elemental concepts here is, and what we're practicing doing is, be that government we want to be. So if we want a government of, for, and by the people, then you get up and you do that. Don't wait for City Hall. Don't wait for Safeway to deliver your food, especially lousy food. Become your own leaders, become your own government. As Lincoln pointed out, a government of, for, and by the people. So that's what Cottage Grove is focused on. That's one of our elemental talking points, doing points, most importantly. And it's working well because 80 people in Cottage Grove doing something together is pretty cool. And on top of that, just to finish, we're also networked into the larger Emerald Valley timeshare, for example, and also other growers in the area that have already got crops running in the ground. So we're doing it, and we're networking that food source together. And then also we have Baprovecho in Cottage Grove, another great source of inspiration and also doing. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Anybody else want to jump up there?
Actually, during the occupation in Portland, I was going to school for college, getting my prerequisites out of the way to take a study in sustainability. I think if we're going to liberate any country or ours, it have to be sustainable. It's time to liberate everyone involved. Yeah, it's a very political, environmental, social problem, and it's the only issue is that when we decide to do so, it's been on our table for a long time as a species. So it's about time to get on it.
Is Portland making moves in that direction?
Portland is a pretty interesting place as far as like sustainable planning. We probably have one of the best transportation systems in the United States right now. It could be roughly different states and cities, but the TriMet system and the MAX system is pretty interesting, and it gets better every year. How much electricity we use, I don't know. I mean, that's another thing up in the air, but it could get better because it goes everywhere. And we as Portland Occupy, we're trying to focus on more on sustainable, results right now. Which, like our food team, who who provides food, they're occupying the food chain. They got this philosophy. They want to change the world by how much food people have in a sustainable way, healthy, good food. There are other groups talking about this stuff, but there has been a really cohesive, broad communication between all groups. And when we begin that discussion, as at least maybe a state, we could begin to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely sustainability is a way out of all these problems, in my opinion. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Any other ideas on how your local occupies might be interacting with your community for the good of the community, or would you like to try another topic out?
I think we're doing a good job. I mean, there's no leaders in this movement, and it helps people feel inclusive, more involved. I mean, how many people actually, I mean, I live in Portland. I meet people from Gresham. I meet people from Selwood, Oregon. I meet people everywhere. I think it's doing a pretty good job in that aspect, and it's going to get better. Yeah. I'd like to see every Occupy have more open houses, maybe bi-weekly.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And David, I think one of the things that caught my attention on the Occupy, and many of us in Cottage Grove, was the fact that the Occupy Washington, D.C., for example, where it elementally began, was inspiring to see them put together the medical, the library, et cetera, et cetera. They were self-sustaining, by and large self-sustaining. But we all got that from Occupy Egypt. It wasn't called Occupy Egypt then, but those people showed the way. When the Arab Spring broke out, and the North African phenomenon was before that in Tunisia, we saw these people putting together the basic structure of what a democracy looks like.
That's right.
And being able to handle their own damned affairs. And so those are very inspirational before the Occupy got here. But the Occupy got it, and boom, Occupy Wall Street did it.
Yeah. And formed your own little
What a great
communities.
example.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I agree. Yeah.
I wanted to express that one of the exciting things about Occupy Salem has been the diversity across the political spectrum. We used to joke that we had members from the Tea Party to the Green Party, and especially early on in the beginning. It became kind of an uphill battle as time went on to retain members because, of course, the party leadership, sprung into action and made attempts to broadly denounce the entire Occupy movement. So we went and started occupying Republican Party meetings, which is really interesting because when we did that, it was really hard for the group as a whole to agree to denounce the entire movement because they could see that there were a lot of issues that we had in common. And so it was really exciting to see, then people come down and get to know us better and, to stick to the issues rather than the positions that we had on those issues, but really invite people to join the conversation regardless of where they fell in the political spectrum. So it's been great seeing that level of cooperation and ability to network.
Yeah.
On March 19th, the Republican debate, the party will be in Portland. The conference. We should all be there. Yeah, we'll talk about that more. Yeah.
Will you be there protesting, or will you be there to show that you have conjoined issues?
I don't know. I guess we'll see who will show up to do what.
Okay.
I'd like to see people yell at them. A little bit.
And on the flip side of that,
Yes, sir.
there's a conjoined issue that just happened in Southern Oregon, and it took place in Medford, where the Occupy convened with the Southern Oregon, I think if I got this right, Southern Oregon Conservative Group, I think they call themselves. But these folks started talking to each other there in Ashland, Medford, and Grants Pass about something they had in common, a bone to pick with the government and the corporations. The issue particularly was the NDAA. So that was the chosen topic, but we got into conversations at Vogel Plaza in Medford, all 150 of us. But it was a cold, rainy, nasty day. But those people who showed up, and it was about pretty evenly split, a little bit more occupied than the conservative element, including libertarians. But we had conversations, some for the first time. And it showed that we have some common ground that is not marginal, but very, very large. And one is that question of, You're going to do this to Americans, disappear them? Come on. Not on our watch.
That's the kind of issue that everybody can get behind. We're all Americans, and
Yeah.
you know, you can all step on the toes of the government.
And don't mess with our freedom.
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the issues that we keep on getting beaten over the head with is the idea that as a movement, the Occupy movement has not refined its goals and its mission. You know, it hasn't come out and said, these are the things we want. How about it? Do you guys, anybody here feel like you can isolate some specific goals from your occupation, some long-term goals, some short-term goals?
I like to say that I think we have as groups. Maybe people should come in and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely like to say each occupied chapter is synonymous and focuses on issues particular to their communities. But the unifying thing is that every Occupy is fighting to push for a government that's more representative of its people than the interests of big business corporations, because there is a definite conflict of interest with many of the politicians representing people, the people in government right now. One example, there is a big Supreme Court case coming up for Monsanto trying to push to legalize a new type of genetically engineered alfalfa.
Oh, no.
And farmers and scientists are fighting against this, saying there hasn't been enough study on the environmental impact of that, how those plants are going to spread and, you know, cross-pollinate with natural crops, which genetically engineered food is considered intellectual property. So if you're a farmer and your plants are contaminated by these genetically modified ones, then you can be sued for copyright infringement. So they're fighting, Monsanto is trying to push past this and not get an environmental impact study.
We need to stop that Death Star today, man.
Yeah.
Bring down the Death Star.
But the conflict of interest, the judge who's hearing the case used to be a lawyer for Monsanto. And that's just extremely blatant form of corruption, and those things happen in multiple places in our government. So really Occupy is people trying to take back their government to be representative of them again. And
not representative of the corporations.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's many, many issues that stem from that. I mean, there's healthcare, food security, homelessness, education issues. So people look at it and say, well, you don't have one central issue. It's like, well, these are all stemming from just corporate influence on government. And Occupy, you know, it's just not one hive mind. It's a diversity of people with different ideas coming together to discuss and debate how we can solve these problems, which that I think is a victory in itself. I grew up in a generation that was largely apathetic and cynical, I feel like, towards politics. It's kind of like, well, things are messed up, but I can't do anything about it because my voice doesn't matter. So Occupy really provides a forum for that, where people feel that they can express themselves and that they can make change. And I'm getting a little off on a tangent here, but
You're going great. Keep going.
I feel that's kind of, I mean, that in itself is a victory for Occupy. And yeah, I just feel that all the Occupiers are just trying to get big business out of government.
Yeah. I think we could all agree that's one of the basics for us. You know, I would think also some issues around money and politics. I don't know. Can you throw a few more ideas out there? You know, what are some of the other issues that we're all pulling together behind?
Well, rule setting, for one thing, is one of the things I know we've been on the table in discussion frequently lately in all of the groups that we've visited, is that if you're going to pay to have a vote in your favor and you're going to create rules, then everybody needs to play by those rules. Everybody needs to suffer the same consequences when they don't play by the rules, and everybody needs to experience the same reward when they do. And that's not happening. And I think what spurred this, what it seems to me spurred this passion behind the money out of politics, the bank bailouts, is that it's just so grossly unfair. It's so grossly unfair that people were shocked out of their couches and away from their televisions and needed to stand up and say something about it. People for the last 15 years have been experiencing a downturn, an economical downturn, and since the TARP fund was created in the Bush administration, that money was set aside, $7.5 billion set aside, and $600 a piece thrown at us to go shopping so we wouldn't notice that the banks were receiving this huge chunk of money. That was insulting. And with the promise of change, with the Obama administration, the promise of hope, and that slap in the face of having that money released, the money was already set aside, but having the rest of that money released to the banks, even with the banking reform at that point, we're losing our mortgages, we're choosing between a gallon of gas and a gallon of milk. We're paying ridiculous fines and fees, the banks are charging us overdrafts, and we've just been bombarded for decades now with ridiculous increasing costs of living and a total lack of consequences from the people that are making it happen. Yeah. And that is, if you want to get a core issue of the Occupy movement, people say 1%, 1/10 of 1% of bad guys are throwing their money around and establishing rules for people, and they're not playing by the rules. Nobody's being charged with treason. Nobody that's stealing millions of dollars from people and gambling our money away is going to jail. And if you and I were to go steal a loaf of bread or a gallon of gas, we would be in jail immediately. Right. And I think that's just what spurs it. The people, when people wake up and realize that things aren't being taken care of the way that they're supposed to be taken care of, they get mad. Right. But once you start doing the research and learning, it is really easy to discover your passion and just run with it. And that's what we're seeing happen, is that people got involved, they're becoming aware, they're recognizing what that means to them, and they're taking on these issues that fall under that same umbrella of economic and social injustice. It all falls under that umbrella.
Accountability,
that's it. And that's what we want. I love this, what are the demands thing, because it's never been a hostage situation. It's not like you can give us some stuff, we're going to give the parks back. The demand is simple. It is the obligation and responsibility of the people to determine what is and what is not working in this country, and it is the job and responsibility of the government, which we elected to take care of this for us, to do something about it. And that's where we're at. It's broken. Fix it. That is the demand. That's what everybody wants. Sorry, talk about a tangent.
Oh, no, you're doing great. Yeah.
Education, we feel, is really key to that awakening and the key to people realizing, that things are badly broken and that they do have a responsibility and an inherent duty to address it and to inform other people. And so I think that, doing that in the broadest possible sense and bringing in bringing people together who ordinarily don't sit and talk to one another is really crucial to the success of the movement, and realizing that these issues are affecting all of us regardless of how you're looking at it. And so in Salem, education has become very, very important. We have symposiums. We had just an Awakening the Dreamer symposium that was so wildly successful that we're doing another one, and want to bring in more people and more visioning. And just seeing that expand and continue to draw in as many people as possible.
Yeah, and nationwide, we need to educate people.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. A core element. Yeah. Any other visions? Any other demands you guys want to put on the table?
I think all in all, if we're looking at demands, and there are many of them, overturning Citizens United, it can't stop there. That's a reform. We need to go beyond reform and look at the end result. And so for me, liberty and justice for all means something, and that to me is the end product and part of what this Occupy stands for. And I think most American citizens, and I would indeed dare say from my experience in the world, overseas in combat and beyond, that most human beings get this. They want to be treated fairly. So liberty and justice for all makes sense to them. And after all, it's the Pledge of Allegiance, the final stanza of it. So we have something in our own makeup that speaks clear to it. In Lincoln, I'm going to harp on this forever, but not forever. It should be soon done. The government of, for, and by the people is the republic that we want, or that democracy we cry out for, and actually do something about, whether it's a sustainable cottage grove or the projects these folks are working on. We have boots on the ground, and we are doing something, and we have results on the ground that lead the way, if you want to put a lead to it. But in our hearts and our minds, we know this worldwide. And right now, America has the opportunity. And I trust we'll see the rising in the spring. More vigorous, just like the plants coming out of the ground, bursting with life, and boom, let's go forward. And get that liberty and justice for all that we crave. And we know we need, and we desire. It's sexy, it's hot, and it's worthwhile going after.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting down to the final lap, I guess, final quarter of the hour we have together. I want to hit on a couple of different things. Maybe we could briefly just talk about what has happened, maybe in your own occupation, what has happened, when it all started, back in September, and we didn't even have a glimmer of what this would come. What has really kind of taken you by surprise about this whole movement, locally, internationally? What came up that you really just didn't think could happen? Anybody got anything you want to talk about along those lines? Something that caught you by surprise?
I guess I would say how much people have interest rather than before. It'd be difficult to talk in your job about these things because there wouldn't be enough time to speak about these issues and actually begin to discuss what we could do together. That took me by surprise in a great way.
Didn't expect the movement to catch on, you mean?
No.
Yeah.
We didn't know where it was going. We still don't. That's the great part about it. Let's keep it this way. Keep them by surprise. Yeah.
I think really, well, the whole thing caught me by surprise. I mean, I like many people that I've spoken to since this movement started. I really wandered around this place thinking that I'd gotten off on the wrong planet for a long time, and then I woke up one morning and realized 1 million people agreed with me, and they were outside in the park. And I thought, wow, in my lifetime, the beauty of it, the part that is a pleasant surprise, is the diversity of the people from the beginning. People from all walks of life, from all different kinds of belief systems, from all backgrounds, have come together around issues that are the core issues of humanity, really. And despite their differences, work together to create there's encampments, but also within communities where there's not an encampment, there's community, real community within our communities that we've been missing for so long. I mean, when I was little, it was go to the neighbor's house and take them cookies, and people got together and they talked about things. They talked about issues, and somewhere along the line that stopped. People stopped talking to each other and started watching the television and started becoming afraid. And when people started coming together with the Occupy movement, they started learning more about each other, more about the important things, the aspects of community that we've been missing for that long. And for a lot of us, a lot of us are 18 to 35 years old. 20 years is a good chunk of your lifetime to go without real community, and seeing them identify with the real needs of the people. I remember in the beginning a lot of people talking about their surprise with the knowledge and kindness of people who are homeless. And identifying needs. We need to feed these people. We need health care. We need shelter. We need to listen to them. We need to give them a voice. And for me to see that happen nationwide and worldwide was pretty profound. There are issues that we've all been aware of throughout our entire lives, but it really takes people coming together for us to start recognizing the issues other people are dealing with. And to see that progress from, we're standing in a park to we're providing food and we're providing medical care and we're providing education and we're providing, classrooms and art, and that community is such a beautiful display of what can be done when people talk to each other and people work together and they set aside their differences for common goals. And I think it's the biggest surprise, because we all sit on our couches and get upset when we hear things we don't like, and it's really easy to point fingers, but it's hard to get up and do something. And people getting up and doing something is a surprise. I think not just for me, probably for, I know my parents' generation was a little shocked, for a lot of people. So, and that's ongoing. I know we don't touch on that very often. There's this rumor that since the camps have been broken up, that aspect is gone, and it's not true. I mean, the community was brought by the people, and the kitchens are still running, and the medical care is still being given, and the education is continuing, and it is through those means of reaching out and providing for the most basic needs of other people that conversation continues, and the awareness happens. And so I see us becoming stronger as a movement as we continue to reach out and talk to each other, and not just occupiers, but our network of allies, other like-minded individuals, over a cup of coffee or a shared soup, within our larger communities. And the movement is only as radical as the police are upset. So, without the encampment, it gives us a real opportunity to move forward and continue to grow in a direction that will achieve the goals that we're all after.
Right. I feel like in Eugene, we spent 70 some odd days building a camp, and we thought that's what we were building. We're building this camp, building the kitchen, building the engineering yard, and all the other structures we built, and then it all went away, and then we realized, I think, that we were building community. Was what all that was going on, was we were building community, and I think that may have been a surprise to us. You're right. Yeah, I like that. Any other surprises crop up, or would you like to maybe take it a little personal? Maybe talk about what you guys have got, what's bringing you into the occupation.
Dave, I'll back this up a little bit. I think being almost 67 gives me at least some personal insight from the experiences I've had throughout the decades. And I started this step toward community. And back in 1955, when I saw Rosa Parks getting handcuffed on a black and white television my parents had just bought. So TV can show you some good things. I'm not sure that was a good thing, but it was a thing. It was an opportunity, an exclamation point that said to me, wow, why in my country of freedom this is happening? So that was my first step into that realm of questioning. And for decades, I have seen the movement appear and disappear. And the Occupy is for me another opportunity. And I am not surprised. It's inevitable. It has to happen. It is happening. And you can see by this panel, these people are younger than I am, and that includes Dave over there. You're picking it up, man. And I am proud.
I agree. Yeah. Anybody else? Michelle?
Yes, I feel blessed and honored to have seen this in my lifetime and to be, a part of it, and to really to feel how people are really getting back to the issues that affect all of us. And when I say all of us, I don't even mean just 99%, but 100% of us are affected by the way the system interfaces and interacts with one another. And so finding ways that we can keep coming back to the heart and coming back to, how can we provide for all of our needs? How can we include everyone in the conversation? How can we get beyond the divisiveness and get back to what makes us whole? Because that's where it needs to come, is how we're going to bring this together as a whole. And that's 100%. How are we going to put this back together, 100%, all of us?
Instead of one really big puzzle piece and 99 smaller puzzle pieces.
Right.
I will say one thing that, going back to the question about what surprised us about the movement, just how much it's changed the public dialogue and become a part of the public consciousness. I talked before about kind of apathy and cynicism, and I realized since Occupy started that words like capitalism, social justice, wealth disparity, like those have really become a part of the public lexicon, which before people really didn't talk about that. People talked about like celebrity fashion faux pas at the Oscars, and now just like walking down the street, I hear people on the train talking about the UC Davis pepper spray incident where completely peaceful protesters were basically attacked by a police officer just for being there and exercising their First Amendment rights. And I've heard people like going out after work for a beer to the bars, and they sit around and they talk about how they think, you know, Occupy's on the verge of something big. We don't really know how far it'll go as far as making reforms and changing public values, but it's clear that it is having an effect on people. People are interested, and I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Likewise, yeah. Antonio, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to say to the general public, you know, Occupy, we have basically surrounded the zeitgeist of this time. The cultural climate is changing, just like, what's your name?
Karen.
Karen, yeah. Yeah, so we've done that pretty well, and it's going to continue. How it's going to change, it's all up to us how we stay together, you know. That's what I think. It's going to continue.
This is just the start of something big.
It's very big,
Yeah.
and usually big things start simple. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some kind of protest chant about that, isn't there? I don't recall it right now, but yeah. We're 5 months in now. Is that it?
Yeah.
5 months in. So yeah.
To me, it's like the new age renaissance. Like this decade's gonna be huge. Yeah. We're all talking about how unique this is gonna be. We all feel it.
Yeah. Got a sense, anybody here, what the summer's gonna look like?
We'll rise like lions. You know? Yeah.
Anything you want to see happen this summer?
Summer of Love. Another one. Revisited.
Summer of, real love. Yeah.
Indeed.
Be safe. Yeah.
I think that we're going to see more issues. I think what we're going to see is more and more people, more groups, smaller groups of people, as we've seen coming forward and bringing their issues to light. No one person can get them all, and I expect as it warms up, the intrigue and the action will bring in yet more groups to expose things going on. I know we started out with some interesting things. There was the student loan. So everybody was mad about student loans. Of course, we've had that reform now, and it's been taken care of. It sort of dropped off the table. Immigration is coming up. For Oregon, it's been, well, all of the states were given the go-ahead to, create a bill that allows people to stay in the state and get it to the White House. I'd like to see that become one of our focal points, and I expect that we'll have other groups working on that as well. I think education is going to get pretty exciting over the summer. Teachers will be able to participate, and we've opted out of the No Child Left Behind Act, so we'll have a lot of interesting things to draw from moving forward. Healthcare is going to go probably off the charts again over the summer. That's another time for people to get out and rally around things, and we're looking towards Oregon's statewide healthcare that's going to be coming forward this year. What I'd like to see happen is that all of those armchair occupiers find their way outdoors and start communing with the individuals out there. I'd like to see us as a state network ourselves in such a way that we can participate in clear message protests around our larger umbrella issues, so that we can keep that consistency going and make sure that everybody else knows that we do have a point. It's pretty important, and I think that will inspire probably a lot more arts and music and other cultural additions to the movement. We haven't seen a lot of it. It's there all along the way, but it's just now starting to peek its head out above the movement, above the protest. We're starting to see some really great adaptations of inspiration. So I think that we'll see quite a bit more of that over the summer too, and hopefully a lot more outdoor activities.
Yeah, well that's what I'm kind of wondering, if anybody wants to paint a picture. We've got 3 minutes left. What do you think it's going to look like this summer on the streets, in your town, in the nation? I mean, what what's going to be happening, in the streets. Not the issues as much as what's it going to look like. What are the pictures we're going to be seeing in the paper?
I think like WTO in Portland, like crazy stuff. Yeah, maybe across the state and country.
Yeah.
We made it through the winter, so it can only look good.
Yeah, I see larger numbers, and I anticipate that because what I've seen in the past. This movement is not going away. It can't, because there's too damn many issues that need to be solved, not being solved by government or business. And we're stepping it up. We're, at least for ourselves, showing a way for each Occupy group to engage in the community and regionally, and I think even internationally. If there's any connection between what happened in Egypt and now happening in Yemen, Syria, etc., some serious stuff could possibly come down, but I think we're better than that here. Not that they're not. The Egyptian people have done a heck of a good job of making the biggest effort they possibly could to be nonviolent. When you get attacked every day, then you have to defend yourselves. I trust in this country that's not going to happen, but I don't have rose-colored glasses on either. And decades of being in the streets has told me it could happen here. It's certainly set up to go there. But it's up to us, not just on this panel, but in every Occupy. And that includes people not in the Occupy, to use this and use this. And don't get carried away with fear, because that will screw the whole thing up. And I'll be there to stop that if I possibly can. Not individually, of course, but just as one person. Yeah, individually. If one person's just saying, hey, hold up, take a deep breath, and don't let these ad hominem attacks from whatever quarter get at you. Bring those people in to a conversation, not yell back at them. That's one way of taking care of what's happening already, what's going to happen in the spring and in the summer. And one of the things that, I'll stop at that.
Well, no, you were doing fine. You're doing fine.
We got 3 minutes left. I don't want to hog it.
Oh, okay. Anybody else want to tell us what you're going to be seeing in the streets? I'll give you another 20 seconds. Anybody want to talk?
I just want to bring up the conference. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, bring it up.
On March 15th to the 18th, we're going to have an Oregon Occupy conference held in Portland. Expect a press conference. We're trying to hold it together and get together. If you're in medical, safety, food team, please begin to communicate with other related committees in Oregon to collaborate that efforts and begin to converge together as a state, at least.
All right.
And
we'll try to out there.
Yeah.
So that's it. This has been another episode of Occupy TV. Thank you for being here. See you next week.
Yeah.
Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that?